Aloha, Phil. How are you?
Fantastic.
Now, is this the first interview you've done on your company, on this movie?
Yes.
It is. Okay, so are you nervous?
Yeah.
Good. Good.
That's what my nervous laugh.
Well, anyhow, and this was kind of a last minute thing. Some things were being juggled around, and I talked to Phil through two other people that I had already known, and somehow we got to introduce each other. And I said, well, why don't we come on and bring you on and talk about your company, talk about the movie that you're working on. And I think this is a perfect venue for that. Absolutely a perfect venue. So anyhow, your company is called the Arizona Film Productions, and basically its main reason that it's in existence is because you've been working on producing a movie called The Last Algonquin. Is that correct?
Correct.
So so now, and just to give people a little bit of idea, I know you have your main purpose is to produce this movie, but earlier we talked about what your mission is for your movie. I mean, for your production company and what it's doing. So and if you can reiterate what we talked about, then that would be helpful.
Oh, sure, Andrew. I was having a midlife crisis. I was about 52 years. I'm 60 now, and I was crisising because of a lot of things, but mainly because I wasn't feeling creatively fulfilled. Because I was in the film business as a young man, and really got the bug. And I felt like I was going to make a movie someday. And I was getting past a half century mark on my life, and I felt like it wasn't happening. I had dozens of stories, and I couldn't decide which is the right one story to tell if I'm going to make a shot at making a movie. I mean, a real movie, not just a small movie, but a big movie.
So at the time, you had been involved with acting. Oh, I remember you had been involved with being a associate producer with NBC or something like that.
Actually, I started it in Hollywood as a page at NBC Studios.
Okay, page. That's right. I'm still not clear what a page is.
Well, a page is just like what I do in real estate. I give tours.
Okay, so you're a tour guide. Okay, I understand now.
So you're a tour guide, right?
Okay, of course.
Right. So, I was in the Cottonwood bookstore, and I said a little prayer. I said, Lord, help me find a diamond in the rough. And I looked up, and I was in the Native American section, and I pulled out this book that was weathered, and I thought, okay, $1.98. And I took it home, and I read it, and my heart leaped, and I cried. Every element of my being lit up when I read the book, and I said, this is the movie I'd like to make. And it seemed like a really obscure book at the time. So as I researched it, I found that it actually was a bestseller, and that there had been 6 other producers prior to me that had attempted to make it into a movie over 30 years. This is a 30-year anniversary now. And the man that wrote it, Ted Kazimiroff, he's alive and living in the South and having a wonderful life. And he's been very patient with all of us producers trying to get this movie made. But what happened was, through a series of circumstances, I didn't really feel like I had the money right at the time, and my daughter had a little inheritance. Her name's Anna Lee. Hi, Anna Lee, in Portland. And she said, Dad, let me buy your air ticket to go see Mr. Kazimiroff. And I said, no, babe, you can't do that. I can't let you do that. And she said, Dad, you never let me do anything. I said, you're right. She said, let me buy your ticket. So I did. I went and flew down there, and I met him, and I stayed at his house, and we became good buddies. And he said, the rights lapsed. The last guy didn't pay me, and so if you're interested, make a deal. So I came back, and all the doors opened up for me to have the finances to be able to tie up the movie rights, and now I'm the 7th producer trying to make the movie.
Well, 7th is a magical number. You just know that, right? Of course.
Well, I'm glad about that.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
So that's kind of how I got started on it. And then I had to research, and although I've been in the film business, I had to figure out how to write the contract, and which, as it turned out, I wrote a pretty good contract myself using just the production manuals. It's passed through Fox Studios, the legal department, and they were happy with it. They didn't want to make the movie, but they were happy with my contracts and legals, which was fantastic. And so I've been on a journey to find people to.
But you were working time?
No. I submitted it to Paul.
Oh.
Yeah, before they take your book or anything, they want to see your legals that you have.
So they were at least satisfied that. Legal matters were.
That's right.
But I thought you were paid for NBC.
About 40 years.
Okay, so that was a while back, and then you actually moved to Cottonwood. Eventually, you left the Hollywood scene,
right? And
then you came here to Cottonwood and decided to make your nest here.
Right.
And then and that's when you came upon this book. And then
I came up on the book just about less than 5 years ago, and that's when it really started for me.
Got it. And then now you've been working actively to produce this movie and get it off the ground and work with it.
Yeah.
So so you submitted your contracts to Fox, but they didn't want it. So then what happened after that?
Well, we've had a lot of submissions. We've had I've talked to many Indian tribes. Everybody loves the book. It's a story that you can't believe it's a true story, but it is. And that's one of the amazing parts about it. But I hope you'll all get a chance to read The Last Algonquin, and you can go to the website, www.thelastalgonquin.com, and we have a whole set of videos and interviews and the team that's involved with the project. If you're interested, you can sure check that out. I'd love to talk to anybody that might be interested. And so what happened was I realized we've got to have a screenplay next. And you can't, almost impossible to sell a movie to Hollywood or anybody else without a screenplay, because screenplay is their medium. So one day I was watching the local TV channel, and I saw Michael Blake was going to be over in Prescott at the air school over there giving a presentation to the students. So I ran over and I videotaped him, and while there was about 10 people in the audience, the students, and I taped it, and I met him and introduced him, and later on we talked, and I got him the book, and he read it, and he said, "Man, I want to write this screenplay for you, Phil. So if you can raise the money, I'm there for you." So that's been something we've been trying to do.
Now, when I do these shows, I always do them with the mindset that people are just very ignorant about everything that's being said. So who is Michael Blake?
Michael Blake is the Oscar-winning screenwriter of Dances with Wolves. And he wrote the adaptation for the screenplay off of his novel. And Kevin Costner produced and starred in the movie, and it was a breakaway regeneration of the Westerns back into the film industry.
Got it. So, and what a perfect screenwriter, perfect match for this movie as well. Absolutely. And you can see some interviews with Michael on our website, actually talking about the story, the nature of the story, and why he's so interested in making it. Got it. So, and that's so you talked to Michael, and then what?
And Michael said, "Hey, you can, I'll help any way I can," and that's what he's done. And we've also connected with Michael Haig, screenmastery.com, and you can go to Michael's site, and he's the screenwriting guru of Hollywood, and he has been so kind and gracious to help us with our development and promotions along the way. And we're certainly going to use him when we get to the actual writing of the screenplay, because, of course, we have to raise the money first.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that helps. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So that's the mission right now. We're putting the feelers out. We're letting people know about the book. The main thing is, I think, more than anything, if somebody reads the book, I'd love to read some of the letters that Mr. Kazimiroff had received over the years about the story and how it's changed their lives. It totally changed my life in the way that I think maybe I still am a little bit, but as far as my maybe racism or subconscious racism or bigotry or whatever, and I guess when I read the book about this Indian that went out on his own after his parents died into New York in the 1860s, and he tried to become, in a sense, blend in with the white man's world, and through that process, he almost gets killed many times. He does find some friends along the way, but he loses being Indian because he tried to be white. And before he gets killed in the last outrageous adventure, he realized that he's supposed to be an Indian. And so he goes home, and he finds out that Indian he is, and he follows his Indian ways, and he blends back with nature. And he lives alone, basically hiding in the Bronx forest for about another 50 years. And when he's old and really aged, he's living like a hobo hidden in his hut in the Bronx forest. He meets a young Boy Scout, And it's the author's father, when he was a young Boy Scout in the 20s, actually met Joe Tutri. And they became friends. And that's the last thing that Joe needed in his life. He needed a connection. And he needed forgiveness with the whites because, you know, I almost want to cry because of the way they treated him.
Yeah.
And so, and the last thing he needed was to be able to tell his story. And the boy was there. God had brought him the boy to tell his story and to pass it on to future generations about his people, about the ways of Native Americans.
Yeah.
And how to live a pure life and under the direction of God.
Yeah.
And Joe was a very religious person. In fact, he prayed constantly about what he should be doing. And God always brought him signs. Hechimana, too, is what he called God, the name for God. And the story is broader in the sense that it brings in all religions, it brings in all beliefs in the sense that it shows us that there is only one God. We can all call him anything we want, because when he was talking to the Boy Scout at the campfire one night, and Joe told young Ted that, you know, before we make your pot, he taught him how to make a clay pot. And before you make your pot, you need to go home and pray about it and sleep on it. And then tomorrow, the maker will show us how to make your pot. And that's what they did. And so there was a lot of teaching. And then as the Indian got older that summer, it was an Indian summer, and he only met him and was a few months, so they became friends. The Indian got ill, and he finally convinced his father, Ted, to go out and try to help the Indian and bring him home. It was Christmas Eve. And he got a hammock, and they ran out to his hut, and he was gone, and they couldn't find him. And that's the tip of the story, what happened to Joe Tutri. Mm-hmm. And you can, on the website, you can watch an interview with the actual author of the book about what might have happened to him, what some of the surmises. But basically, at the end of Joe Tutri's story, he said, and the last thing about the story that I have to tell you is, Ted, you're in my life. So it was a circle of life that came around. And then Ted grew up to be a famous dentist. He was Theodore Kazimiroff in New York City. And he grew up because he met Joe in the 20s when he was 12 years old. And he grew up to be a famous dentist. And he became fascinated with the history and archaeology, and he became an amateur archaeologist. And he actually started the Bronx Historical Society and became its president until he died in, I believe, about 80. And so when his son, Ted Jr., was about 12, when they were on some digs collecting artifacts for the museums in New York, I guess he collected almost 1 million pieces for the museums and documented all kinds of history that's been useful in the history of the Bronx.
Wow.
But basically, they were on a dig, and Ted Sr. started to tell Ted Jr. about meeting Joe Tutri when he was a boy. And over the years, he told all these stories about meeting Joe. And Ted was, of course, fascinated and learned a lot and became fascinated. Ted Jr. did in archaeology, and he's a grown man now. But he was a fascinating person. And when his dad died in about 1980, something came over him that he felt like he had to do something for his dad. He had to do something for his dad. So what he did is he decided to collect all of his notes from his dad's stories about meeting Joe Tutri when he was a boy, and he wrote a book about it. And it came out in 1982, and it came out with high acclaim. Is probably in over a dozen languages. It's been translated into German, Spanish, and it's been around the world. And it's a heartfelt story that, as Michael Blake says, will last forever. And so anybody that reads the book will actually think this should be a movie. And it should be a movie. And the reason is because we all need to find our way in life, as Joe Tutri did. And we need to find out who we are, as Joe Tutri did. And through his journey, although it was hard and difficult and lonely. But one producer in Hollywood that read it, as we were talking, and this is a big producer that made some big movies, and she was all excited. I was going on a fishing trip, and she said, wear your life jacket, because I'm reading the book, and it's just awesome. And then I called her when I got off the fishing trip, and she said, I'm so sorry. She said, finished reading the book, I cried for 2 days. I can't make a movie that's going to make people cry for 2 days. I said, I understand. I said, you see a lonely man for 50 years hiding out, living on bugs and stuff he grew in his yard. And I see a guy that was happy not to live with the whites. And he was an Indian, so nature was his life. The animals.
And that's so true, because Native Americans, they connect with Mother Nature, they connect with nature. That's their true God, their goddess. That's who they are. And that really is.
And he found that. He found who he was supposed to be. And then the only thing he was lacking was to have a friend and to be able to share his story so that it would not be lost to the eons. Well, and he did, and it was. And now here we are.
The seventh producer. And that's why maybe I was prompted to, because when you and I talked about doing this interview, you were going, it was so funny because you kept, I think I got cold feet. I have to get you. Oh, and then you call back. Okay, I can do it. But there's like this battle going on. Well, I was afraid within you, and so I was really amazed that you were going through this. And I thought, and I remember I told you, I go, if you don't do this interview, I think you're going to kick yourself.
Yeah, you want people that are confused.
Yeah. No, not at all. But because when I talk to people and bring them on for interviews, I literally feel their energy. I'm picking up on their energy, and and that's how I can tell whether I want to bring them on there or not. And I knew from the get-go, because when I first was introduced to you, I go, well, I hope this guy's got a story or whatever, and then we can talk. And then this other, I got a shift of venue or of talent to come in, and so I said, well, why don't we talk to him and see what he's got to offer? So, and then when you told me about the story, I go, I didn't even have to read the story. I already knew. I felt your interviews, and I go, yeah, we definitely have to bring you in and talk, and talk about this.
I'm so happy to be here.
So I'm glad you're doing this, because I know
I'm not
at the very worst, you at least got to talk about it.
Absolutely,
fantastic.
So I'm so glad we did.
And we're gonna bring in Neil Baker out of Los Angeles, and we're gonna get some intuitive insight about this. And I've already looked at some of the astrological aspects of this. I think you're going to be surprised about some of the information I'm going to give you concerning it. I think you're and I don't know that you've thought about it, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. But in the meantime, so now, where are you in the stages of this whole? Have you already storybooked this? But you haven't screenwritten it or wrote it, or you haven't?
No screenplay.
Not yet.
No. And
is that your next stage?
The next stage is raising the money to hire a screenwriter that whoever the money wants to hire. I would think the deal we have with Michael Blake is so fantastic. He's given, I can't give numbers on over the air, but he's basically we can't disclose what he's willing to do it for because it's so ridiculously low.
And I told you, I interviewed, I brought in Sterling Anderson a few weeks ago and interviewed him. I don't know if he would be the right screenwriter for this.
Well, I don't think so. Sterling knows about the project, so we're putting it out. It's a difficult project to tell because, number one, it's about an Indian. And basically, movies about Indians in general don't make money.
Yeah.
And Hollywood is all about making money. We're looking for high-end net worth individuals that are interested in an exotic investment that's very risky, but they're sick and tired of the Hollywood.
Yes, of course.
So we're looking for somebody like that can see the value in telling a story like this, that can help change people's lives, that can help them see that here's a Native American that's dealing with the white man who's trying to kill him, and he can figure it out.
But I've been to Flagstaff numerous times. I've even lived there. And I've seen there's a lot of prejudice towards the Hopi, actually more the Navajo. But I can see why, because a lot of them are really caught up in some issues, big issues. But then again, if maybe they got support with those issues, it would be a lot more comfortable for everybody. So I don't know what the answer is to resolve that prejudice, but there is a pretty good scale of prejudice there. And I come across sometimes on my own, and people, think I'm Native, Navajo, and they'll push me with that prejudice, but I'll push back. I'll let them know, hey, this is not cool, this is not correct behavior, and maybe we want to consider changing it. So that's not cool.
When I finished reading the book the first time, I had just about every emotion going on in my psyche. And the bottom line was, as I said, here was an Aboriginal person, a Native American, that had the ability to encourage to try to go into the white man's world when he was 14 and 15 years old, who was beaten and robbed and almost killed. He had a few friends that helped him escape. But his biggest issue was he thought he was the last Indian alive. And he wasn't. But he thought he was because his parents had died and left him alone. And he went to New York and worked on the docks. But there were no Indians around. In fact, most people just thought he was kind of weirdo. They didn't even really realize he was an Indian because there were none around.
So now, where was he born in?
He was born in the Bronx area.
Oh, so he was born in the Bronx, and his parents died when he was a kid?
No, right. When he was very young, about, 14, 15 years old.
So, and he just lived on the street?
His father, what happened was his mom was pregnant with him, and the other Indians and tribes, there were a family of tribes, moved north away from the European encroachment. They left. Yep. And his dad didn't want to leave his land. So, but once the people were gone, his dad was so sad and lonely without his people, he went and sat on a rock until he died after a few days. And then his mom said, she passed away within a relative short period of that, and there he was, left alone. So he got the courage up through all of his fears to go into the white man's world. And what happened was, when you read the stories, you said, here's a Native American person that's actually a better Christian, let's say, than the white people of his time. Because all he tried to do was help people along the way. And half of them wanted to try to kill him and steal from them or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's just amazing. And when I was done reading the book, I thought, Joe Two Trees is a better Christian than I was. Because he did what his God and his parents and his people before his parents had all trained him to do the ways of the Indians. And that's all in the book. And it's just fascinating to read.
Awesome. Absolutely. And so now the son, Ted Jr.,
yeah.
And where is he located?
He's in the southern states.
And he's still alive.
Yeah.
And so, and how old is he?
I'm not sure exactly. He's probably in, just after retirement, in the mid-60s.
So around there. Okay. Yeah. So he's not. And
I don't really want to disclose too much personal information.
No, because I'm just thinking that I'm wondering, if just in case this movie becomes popular, or you finally get off the ground, maybe you'll want to do some interviews and with them.
Absolutely. Well, you can see some interviews on our website with Ted. And you can he'd be talking about Native Americans. We'll be talking about Joe Two Trees, what happened to him after he died. You should read the book first if you can. Look through the website if you want, but get the book. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it anywhere. You can buy it for, I think, $3 or somebody used one out there. This book was in New Jersey and New York high schools. It was chosen as the Reader's Digest top book for young adults in 1982 when it came out.
And okay, go ahead.
And it has its own mission in life. In fact, like I said, when Ted was Jr. was writing the book after his father died, really had spirit come over him. And he said, I would be writing something and I'd have a voice tell me, back up, that's not the way it was. And he'd rewrite it the way it was.
And we were talking about that.
Within a matter of a few months, this story poured out of him. He sat at the typewriter smoking cigarettes all night long. He worked teaching in New York City all day long. And he had to get the story told for his father. He wanted to honor his father.
So he was literally channeling the book.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. And through automatic writing, and that, people don't really know what automatic writing is, but when somebody comes in and just writes, and they're inspired to write from somewhere, they don't know where it's coming from. They're just writing, the words are just coming to them automatically. That's automatic writing, and it just pours out. Yeah, absolutely. So he channeled this book, and now for whatever reason, he's still. So and maybe it just hasn't been its time until maybe you. And maybe it's been needed to wait till this time here because there's still a lot of structures out there that are caught up with ignorance and arrogance and prejudice that still need to be broken down. But some of these structures, especially with institutions, the major structures take years and years. So maybe it's still, maybe the timing hasn't been right up until possibly now. So
I'm not a very patient person. I probably, just to be honest, I probably made 500 pitches. I've talked to just about every Native American tribe, and I have some Native Americans. In fact, recent I've been talking to the Native American star who's been in some big films that would be fantastic for the old Jotu trees. Because in the story, we're going to have the old Jotu trees when he met Ted, the young Boy Scout, in the 20s in the Bronx forest, right? And then we really have the old ancient Jotu trees that's finishing up the story, telling his life as a young Boy Scout, which was the author's father when he was the boy the same age.
Wow.
So there's a circle within a circle. There's also a beginning and an ending. He starts on his journey from the Bronx. He goes to New York. He goes to New Jersey. He meets some people. He helps some farmers. He meets a red-haired lady that they have a fantastic time, but it ends horribly. And you can't imagine how excruciating, painful the experiences that Joe Trees were.
Yeah.
But it finally set him over the limit, and he realized that he wasn't supposed to be in the white man's world. He was supposed to be an Indian.
Yeah. And but see now, this is another. And so what happens is he goes back. His journey is circular, and he decides that he needs to go. He's almost dying from. I don't want to ruin the story for you, but he's barely making it back alive. I mean, his dog Kane is helping him stay alive to make it home in his little wood dugout canoe. Yeah. And he finally gets home to the little hut where his parents live, and that's home again for him for the next 50 years. Phil, I got to say this. Maybe this is the perception you might want to consider working with, but maybe just the Caucasian people weren't ready for him.
No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody's ready for the story. Number one is because it deals with forgiveness. It deals with all the other things that I said, that they're bad. People don't want to say, I really don't. I think badly of the Mexicans, or I think badly of the Indians, because it's ingrained in us.
Yeah.
It's ingrained. We're those same white people a few generations later.
Absolutely.
So it is. I felt it ingrained in me, and when I read the Last Algonquin, I think that spirit of bigotry or whatever was cracked a little somehow in my heart, and I think God did it.
But it took 3, 4, 5 generations for that to happen to get to where you're at now, to be able to do that. And 2 or 3 generations ago, that would never happen. Your great grandfather could have read that story, or may not even have read the story. They wouldn't even think about it if it was around. But they could have read that story and it wouldn't even phase it. This is all part of institutionalization type of stuff going on, and it takes years and years. So maybe it's time. Maybe it's time.
Really important spiritual. And when you asked me to be on, it's different for me. And you're asking about the spiritual aspect of the story. Well, the spiritual aspect of the story is that when Joe was telling young Ted about saying his prayer, I talked about it earlier, to say your prayer before you go, and because God will work in your life, and there's a process for it. There's a system, even though some people think it's Christian, some think it's Eastern. In the book, what it does is it brings in. There's a comment that Joe says, Ted says, what do I call God? He said, and Joe said, you don't have to worry because God knows who his name is. You can call him anything you want.
That's a good point.
So it brings, in a sense, a one God theory into prospect, which is what I believe.
Got it. So that's amazing. And so that's amazing that and I don't know how many people have read this book, but I'm assuming thousands, maybe millions. I don't know, but
hundreds of thousands.
Well, hundreds of thousands, and if and you're saying that it actually helped change your life. and who knows how many other lives it has helped with other people as well.
It changed me two ways. It changed me in the sense that it made me more humble. And in the process of trying to develop this into a major motion picture, I've met so many people that are supporters, that have read the book, that have been involved, and it's given me another impossible goal, because basically I'm about impossible goals. So I needed to have a project, and I think God opened the doors for me, and I here I am.
Awesome. So that's amazing. That's an incredible mirage, and who knows where it can go to from here. But I have a feeling that somehow, and it's like a puzzle. You haven't unlocked the right door, and then once you do, everything's just going to.
It's like fishing.
And I have a feeling that's what we're getting ready to come into. So I tell you what. Now, is there anything else you want to relate to us about your company? But now, earlier you told me about something about the company, and I'm not saying that it's unique, but with your intentions with this company, what were the Arizona Film Productions? What did you say your intentions are with this company?
Well, initially I made a lot of commercials locally over the years for customers, and I made some films that helps raise some funds for some nonprofit organization. But really the Arizona Film Production is now centered specifically to produce The Last Algonquin. So that's the goal. That's what we're after. We're after to put this together to get to the right people, to find the right funding partners, find the right screenwriter, and if in fact it isn't Michael Blake, although Michael's services are available, and I sure want to use them if we can get the money for that.
Absolutely.
So that's the process. I'm out pitching every day. I'm contacting people. I'm on the Psychic Show talking about The Last Algonquin and the life of Joe Two Trees. So I hope people will at least take the time to go to the website. You can put in Phil Moyer, producer, and it'll pop up the website, or you can put in The Last Algonquin, or you can put in Ted Kazimiroff and read all the accolades about the book. I wouldn't mind reading some of the actual letters that were written to Ted about the book that are heart-wrenching.
Would you do that? Like one or two of these letters?
Absolutely.
Let's do that. I remember you've been working with this, and you told me earlier that you've had a number of people that have written you about this book, about the movie or about the book.
Well, first of all, the publisher said some fantastic things about it. The New York Times said it's a beautiful and affecting story, a quest, a mythic adventure and journey. Publishers Weekly said it's a portrait of youth and age, pupil and teacher. The story of Joe, passed on to his young friend, is an astonishing account of a lonely man's will to survive. It's a remarkable tale. Charleston Post, a touching story not easily forgotten. A Walker Book Review, which Walker Books is the actual publisher of the book, as recently as 1924, a lone Algonquin Indian lived quietly in Pelham Bay Park, a wild and isolated corner of New York City. Joe Two Trees thought he was the last of his people, and this is his gripping story of his bitter struggle, remarkable courage, and constant quest for dignity and peace. Now, that's some of the reviews. Now, some of the letters that you might be interested in.
And who were writing these letters to?
Well, these were letters written to the book's author, Ted Kazimiroff, Jr. I'll say junior so people understand. Yes, really not a junior. He liked it, I would say. Okay. So here it is. Dear Ted, it's 11:45 at night, and I've just finished reading The Last Algonquin. Although I'm typically not a late night person, but sleep is impossible until I write this letter. I've been deeply moved, first by this amazing tale, but even more by your skill in conveying not only the story, but also the spirit within it. Your father would be so proud.
Here's now, I gotta say this, Phil, is that, should we have Ted just written this book, I don't think people would have come out with this information, these letters. And this is a channeled piece of work. A being, an entity, maybe Two Trees himself came through and wrote the book, but But, and I think that's what makes the difference. I mean, absolutely makes the
Well,
difference.
that last person was Dorothy Williamson Handel. Here's another one. Dear Ted, the day after I finished the book, I truly sobbed as I explained the story to my husband. I have continued to cry when trying to tell friends, and I have highly recommended the book to friends. Joe Tutree's story is a powerful one. I'm so glad that he met your father and that you've shared this story in relationship. Here's a great one. Dear, that was Susanna Farema. Dear Mr. Kazimiroff, I'm a student of my own choosing of Native American studies. I'm inexplicably drawn to the subject all my life. I usually only read authors of Native American descent. I just finished reading your book, The Last Algonquin, and I'm asking you to please make the story into a movie. I never write to strangers, but I think that others should know this story. I think it would make a very good movie. And that was Judy Torres.
Awesome. And that's good enough. Thank you very much. But people get the idea, right? And it's moving people. It's really, really waking people up. It's really tapping into a side of them they don't even know about a lot of times.
I have to read one more.
Okay.
Dear Ted, I just finished, and I like to hear myself talk. Dear Ted, I've just finished reading The Last Algonquin. I find it a little difficult to write this now because I've been crying. When I began the book, I cried also. Then I was moved by the poignancy of your writing this book as a living monument to your father, a great man who touched the lives of everyone he knew. When I finished the book, I was crying for Joe Tutrees and the many millions like him, good, decent people whose lives have been blasted by the irrational hate and prejudices that they've been forced to endure. You've written a fine book, Ellen. I'll leave it at there.
Now, I got to ask, Phil. If people are harboring this prejudice energy, bigotry energy within themselves, what can they do to overcome that for themselves? Regardless of for their reasons.
I think that they have to be aware of it. They have to be aware of it.
It's like being an alcoholic or a drug addict.
Epiphany.
Absolutely.
And they have to think about it, and they have to be aware of it, and they have to be willing to take some blame, in a sense. Not personally, maybe we haven't treated people right because of the way we've been brought up or whatever. But I'm talking about making a conscious effort to see somebody that's different in a different way. Somebody who's, in a way, as far as in God's eyes, an equal person. God loves us all, right? We're all His children, no matter what name we call Him. So that's why people need to read The Last Algonquin.
So people need to be willing to take a risk, take a chance to be vulnerable enough to swallow the pride and look at somebody else's point of view, right? And even possibly forgive if that needs to be happened.
There's no if on the forgiveness.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is the whole part of the story, because Joe Tutrees, after he was treated so badly, and he went and lived for 50 years hiding in the Bronx Park, watching the white people around him. They never found him. But
I don't know that he's still alive, because I think he'd be so.
No. He's dead. There's two questions. He said he was on the edge when Ted's father met him in 1922 in the Bronx Park.
Yeah. So, and you still don't know what happened. So,
No, there's some theories. Ted has some theories, and you can see them on the website, thelastalgonquin.com.
So now what we're going to do is right now, I think we're going to go ahead and play, what was the name of that song?
As Long as Earth Abides by Joseph Brujac. It's a potential theme song for the movie, but if you listen to the words, I think you'll see what part of the theme of The Last Algonquin really is. It's that we're all part of one big picture and we're all connected.
I know I uploaded this somewhere.
I could hum it.
That's okay. Oh, wow. I swear I uploaded this.
You're talking about the wind. It's what happened. I told Andrew when I came in, I had the book, and I thought, well, I'm going to read something spiritual out of the book about the Indian stuff. And all of a sudden, you know how the storm was today, Friday, a gust of about 40 miles an hour hit me, and the book fell out of my hand. It's 192 pages, and the wind took half of it. And it blew it across the parking lot. and two other agents in my office here at Coldwell Banker, they ran out to help him. We got all the pages, but I guess the wind was telling me not to read the book.
Well, I mean, and that's it. I mean, there's been some unusual stuff happening even tonight with me. Oh, here it is. All I do is refresh. So with even me, I couldn't get onto the conference call or anything else. So, we're going to play As Long as Earth Abides. And who's this by?
Okay, Joseph Brujak is a well-known writer. He's a Native American and of white descent. He's in New York City. Joseph Brujak, Bruchac. And he wrote this song, As Long as Earth Abides, and put it to a little melody. I added a little harmonica myself, and we'll see what you think.
And now, and that's is that on an album?
Well, you can go to josephbrujak.com and look at his website and listen to some of his music. And this is some music that he's written and just performed, and he's authorized to potentially use it in the movie, or it is on our website.
This is going to be your intro to your movie.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, but it's not on an album. It's just on his website.
In theory, this is music we might use.
Okay. So As Long as Earth Abides by
Joseph Brujak.
By Joseph Brujak. And we're going to send out love, blessings, healings, angels of light, love to you and the movie and the crew, and to Ted and his father, and to Chutri and all their family, to Mike Carr, to Neil, to all our family and friends here on the phone lines in the chat room, and to all the Native Americans out there, especially the ones struggling to find themselves just for whatever reason, and all their families, and to the President of the United States, congratulations, Mr. President Barack Obama, and may God bless you on your journey for this next 4 years. But so and to of course to all the kids and all the animals, especially the ones in need, and anyone else in need and concern. Anybody you want to add to that at all?
You did a good job.
To your wife and to your kid and to your daughter.
I like to ask blessings on my wife Marciana. She has a little shoulder thing going on. She's concerned about. I'd like to pray for healing for her. I'd like to ask God to bless my daughter Annalie in Portland, and I would like to ask God to bless you and your show and your listeners. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share our story with you.
Awesome. Neil, you want to add to that, or anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm good right now.
Okay. So, As Long as the Earth Abides by
Joseph Brujak.
Joseph Brujak.
He lives in New York City. He has a school for teaching white people how to be Indian.
Amazing. We'll be back with you.
Sometimes the trail is long, it seems we can't go on, even though we know the sun is just beyond the rise. But when we greet the day, as our grandparents say, light will always show the way to those with open eyes. And you may wonder why they had to die, but our old ones will be here with us as long as earth abides. Look to your mother's face, and you may find a trace of hope that can replace the sorrow of disguise. All things that love are strong, winds carry us along. As breath turns into song, the heart can recognize. You may wonder why they had to die, but our old ones will be here with us as long as earth abides. It's like we're lost in space, where we can't find a place. Each day is an endless race, and no one wins the prize. But if we just slow down, take time to look around, the lost may still be found as night becomes sunrise. You may wonder why they had to die, but our old ones will be here with us as long as Earth survives. You may wonder why they had to die, but our old ones will be here with us as long as Earth abides.
Aloha, Andrew Aloha live out of Cottonwood, Arizona, with Spirit Films Productions on Blog Talk Radio, establishing and maintaining regulations for human values. Tonight we're here with the Golden Age Psychic Travel Show, featuring the Arizona Film Productions Company with Joel Moyer, who's the owner of it, and whose main goal right now in life is to produce the movie, put out the storyline by the name of the Last Algonquin. So it's a book already written by Ted Kazimiroff, and now they're looking to make this into a movie, and the storyline is pretty amazing. And earlier, as we talked about, the book was actually channeled as we figured out earlier, and so of course people would be interested in this, because it's not just coming from the ego point of view. It's coming from a spirit, from spirit, and people are really connecting with it. It's been read by hundreds of thousands of people, and people's lives have been changed by reading, exactly, including yourself, exactly, in the sense of prejudice, not just prejudice, but prejudice towards Native Americans and whatever else. Yeah. So it's been an amazing mirage, and this for you has been an amazing lesson plan to work with this, and just really develop this and get it off the ground and so forth. You're working with it. So I don't know where it's going to take you, but definitely
life is an adventure.
We wish you well, without a doubt. And so anyhow, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring in Neil Baker, who is our psychic from our psychic meeting from Los Angeles, and he's done a number of readings for celebrities: Al Pacino, Riley Scott, Natalie Portman, all kinds of people, hundreds and hundreds of people, and very well-known people. And of course, we can't really mention them. Well, actually, I shouldn't have mentioned them just now, but I apologize to those that I've already mentioned. I didn't mean to be rude in that way. But anyhow, Neil, what do you got going on? Go ahead. What are you picking up with all this?
Well, quite a bit. I received Phil's birthday prior to the show, and Phil, I want you to know that first of all, your master number is 4, and Michael Blake, his master number is 4, and Ted's master number is 4. So in other words, the author of the book and the potential screenwriter, you guys have all the same master number. Now, wow. The other interesting thing about that I find is that Michael's master number and Ted's master number it's a 4, but it's derived by a 3 and a 1, and that is your first two numbers of your birthday. So I believe that there's a kind of tribal destiny factor involved in the three of you getting together as author, potential screenplay writer, and producer of this movie. And so I believe that it's something that's rather divine in its conception. That's also, neat. The Last Algonquin the energy of those names also come to a 4 and a 4. So there's a really dramatic 4 essence going on in this whole scenario.
Neil.
Yeah.
Now, esoterically speaking, the number 4 is symbolic of beauty and harmony coming through conflict, going through conflict. So people have this energy. Literally, is lots of musicians, lots of people in the entertainment industry embody this energy because they do. They bring a lot of people together. There's a lot of beauty that comes through to them, but they also go through a lot of conflict to get there. So that's very befitting. But go ahead, Neil.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing, Phil. Arizona Film Productions also comes to 2 4s, if you will.
Wow.
So because Arizona is a 3, film is a 4, and productions is a 1. There we have the 3-1 again, and then another 4. So all this 4 factor is really dramatic, and it accumulates to your master number. Now, 4 is also heart chakra, and it's related to the balance. And I also want you to know, on a personal note, Phil, that at the age of 22, it might be interesting for you to privately look at your life when you were 22 years old, because you did have a sort of transcendent energy at that point in time, which would have been around 1974. Now, we go on. Here, I'm going to make a prediction, in fact, that not only is this a tribal triad energy that is bound to happen, but I'm going to make a prediction, Bill, that when you are, and I hope I'm not giving away, when you are 62 years old, I believe this movie's on the screen or it's already in production.
Great.
So
that's
what
fantastic. I'm 60 right now.
Yeah, I know.
Neil, that's what I'm picking up too. I think it will become a movie, and I was just told just now that the message I don't know that it's going to become an Academy Award-winning movie, but I think it will provide a profound message to lots of people out there that will really take it to heart, and really help to really move a lot of people and shift them around into a really nice place for themselves. I think the message will be incredible, received and receptive for people. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, insofar that you're 60, Phil, you've basically gone through 20 cycles of your master number, and considering that you have a karmic journey at the age of 22 that started to be a transcendent journey, when you were 62, you will have gone through then 40 years of your life. And right. Insofar that 4 is your master number, 4 into 40 is 10, which is a pure completion number. I also want you to know that in your year, 1952, that comes in 8 in numerology, which is going to be a power number. So you actually have a very, very strong power number coming up. And so, like I said, I think it's going to come around the age of 62 when this actually... How long have you been pursuing this so far, Phil?
5. There'll be 5 years in April 17th next year.
So it'll be 5 years. You see, and you have a karmic side. You're born on March 11th, which is a 5. And then when we jump over to your year, that's a 5. So that 5 to 2 years henceforth will be 7 years. And that's when I believe that after you've completed 7 years of this journey, it's in production. And probably in the 8th year, since you started the journey, it should be on the screen. So that would be 2 cycles of your 4 number would be 8. And that would be about 8 years from the time that you started this project to the time that it's actually getting ready to be issued. So I believe it's going to be somewhere between the time you're 62 and 63.
Cool. So the next 2 or 3 years is what we're talking about, huh, Neil?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Neil, let me put in for a second here now. First of all, I went and looked at your birth chart date, and I looked at the date for the day your chart for the day you were born, and then I went and looked at the date for the day for your what you call your soul chart date for your person, the day that came in and connected with the fetus, which is usually about 3 to 4 weeks after the day of conception. So I went and looked at that date, and then I went and looked at the date that formally your company became a company, and the movie you got the rights to do the movie. And what's interesting about that is that the sun, both for your soul chart date, and you don't even know this, your soul chart date, and for the sun and the moon are both in the same aspect. Now, and what I'm saying is if you take and you focus this from spirit, from with the God within yourself, if you focus on this and you align yourself on that level, you and this movie are one in a lot of ways. You absolutely are. Your sun sign is in Leo, and its sun sign is in Leo. Your moon sign is in Aries, and its moon sign is in Aries. So basically, they like to be the center of attention. They're very outgoing people. It's an outgoing energy, but they also work really good with kids and music. Now, the moon is in Aries, which means you're emotionally geared towards being a leader on an emotional level. So, if I was you, I would look at the idea of promoting, and you've already talked about this earlier. You don't even know it, but I would look at the idea of promoting your audience to an audience that's younger, kids, to teenagers, to young adults. That's who I think you should look at that being your audience. That's right. And I don't know that you've taken time to look at who your audience is going to be. I think maybe you just wanted to put it out to everyone, but I think if you focus on your audience being kids, you're going to get a lot farther, and it's going to get off the ground. And not only that, but it's going to teach kids how to be very confident with themselves as leaders. Teach little kids. It'll help kids be leaders as well. And that, I think, it'll be very instrumental for that process and very huge on that level. Now, the other thing too is that interesting enough, is that your Virgo, and this is what's amazing. Your Virgo is retrograde, your Venus is retrograde in Virgo, and so is the movie Venus in Virgo retrograde. The date for your esoteric chart is back in 1951, August 21st, 1951. That's the date that I picked up for your soul chart date. And then, yet, I'm looking at the date for the movie that you got the rights to. That's the 3rd of August, 2007. That's like over 50 years apart, and yet there's still a lot of similarities between that date and the date of your movie run. That's amazing. That's amazing. And so what that means is, again, both your Venuses on Virgo retrograde, which means that you have a level of criticalness going on with the movie and with yourself, not as high as it would be otherwise if the energy was direct. Now, retrograde means that the energy stopped moving, and it looks like it's going backwards, but it's not. It just stopped moving. So if it was actually still moving and going direct, then there would be a lot more criticism going on with this and the movie and yourself and the criticism going on with your higher aspect of who you are, your soul life purpose, what your true life purpose is all about. So now what I'm looking at is, number one, as you know, most people outgrow their personality, which you call it personality charts, the day that you were born, which is also considered Western astrology. Most people outgrow that whole scene, that whole chart, that whole process between ages of 18 through 25, as I've discovered. So, and as you become more enlightened, more spiritual, more the true purpose of who you are, your soul purpose, life has assumably gotten somewhat easier at least. Now, I'm looking at the movie, the chart of the movie. Now, you are going to have to work with it. You're really going to have, and you have been already. And like Leo says, if you stick with it, if you maintain your commitment, I think you will get off there. I'm pretty sure of it. But I think what you want to do is narrow down to where, I think what's going to be significant is that you narrow down your audience to the kids. that's who your audience is. And you can, now that means you can make an animation, you can make an animated movie, or just make it like a Disney movie type of thing. And in fact, I don't know if you've approached Disney, but that might be an idea.
Yeah, well, we're looking for theatrical representation or an agent. We haven't been able to do that. So that would be something we could pray for, that we could get an agent that has connections to do that, to get the right person. I don't want to stress the negative, but I'm not sure it's a Hollywood movie.
Well, we talked about this, but I think if you get the movie produced, and you could take it and show it in film festival, and I think it would do well with a film festival. Absolutely would. I'm pretty sure of it. And then, assumably, it would be picked up further down the road.
And basically, what I mean, it'll have to be an independent film, or we'll have to raise the money on our own to be able to tell a spiritual story.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And if you can do that, I think if you do that, put it out there, I think it'll win some awards, and I think it will be picked up and put out there in Hollywood, regardless of whether Hollywood likes it or not.
Right. That's my plan.
So, I think. So, yeah, go ahead, Neil. Now, okay, well, okay, now it will be very heating, in a lot of ways. When you get the movie out, it'll be heating in a lot of ways. It won't be like, maybe not, how to put this. It could be a lot more heating in other ways if you get some different factors. I mean, in a huge way.
You have to read the book.
But that's what I'm saying. If people read the book and then and then watch the movie, I think it'll be very healing for them. But if they don't watch the movie, read the book, it'll still be healing for them, but not as big as if they were to read the book. I think you can get it around now. Go ahead, Neil. What are you picking up?
Well, I'm looking at the journey that Phil is making through this and how it's become his passionate journey. But at the other hand, I've dealt with being a psychic since I was a child, and I've studied numerology for over 30 years, been a psychic for over 40. And the attitude that you're going through right now, Phil, just on a personal level, whenever I encounter someone who has an 11 in their number, and indeed you do have it in your day, I always find that there's a lot of strife and obstacles and conflicts that human beings go through when they come in with that number form. So I believe that's part of what your whole journey is about in terms of getting through this stuff. And you're really here. One's also is an energy that connects with the earth. So you have a very, very strong kinship with the earth. And I think you mentioned that you were a realtor. Well, realtors have connections with the earth. And so, even if you look back at maybe the point at time in which you became a realtor, it might have been in the early 80s. But at that point in time, when we're looking at the energy level, you might, even if you were around 32, that might be something that you would want to consider when you really started to become a realtor, because a lot of your journey, 4 times 8 is 32, and 8 is one of your higher essence numbers. So we're looking at a human being Phil, who's come back to make a strong connection to the earth, who has a strong sense of spirituality, who has a absolute convicted energy source with God, and who's come down to sort of complete his journey on the earth, which is to connect with the earth, family, fellow human beings, making connections. One thing that drives Phil is that he loves to make people happy, and he loves to connect people. That's what realtors are in it for the business and for the money, but they also are guides to helping people find the land that they should be living on, the home that they should occupy. And that's one of Phil's journeys. Now what he's doing is he's connecting a spirit back to the earth, meaning the individual, the very, very last Algonquin. So he's actually resurrecting this human being from the dead, if you will. He's helping to put his kind of face on the screen and give it more depth and exposure to the media and to the general public at large, where it might otherwise have been more obscure. So I believe too, Phil, that you're sort of on a spiritual mission in this lifetime. And in that unique way, what the universe has granted to you is that all of your trials and tribulations, all of your integrity, and all of the purpose of your faith in terms of that high degree composition of faith, is locked in this battle with this movie. And as we know, 7 is a sacred number. So I do believe that once you have accumulated 7 years, basically 7 years of journey through this this passion of yours, that's when I think it's going to be activated as well.
Yeah, Neil, hang on a second. Now, one of the other things that I'm seeing too is one of the other considerations you might make is to include up-to-date 21st century rap, and maybe something that and maybe you might want to go to artists, Native American artists that are really in the scene, that are really doing really well, and approach them to help and include some of their music in this movie, because I think that will help sell the movie and get the message across even more directly and more confidently. So now the other thing too. Now, Neil, what I'd like to do right now is I want to call the spirit and the presence and essence of Arizona Film Productions and the Last Algonquin, the movie, and I would like to have a dialogue with him. Are you good with that? Are you with me on that?
Well, I'm not sure. What are you saying now?
I want to call forth the spirit of the entity called Arizona Film Productions, and also the entity called the Last Algonquin, the movie. Can we call them forward right now and talk to them?
Well, go for it, Andrew.
Let's do it.
Joe Two Trees, spirit of Joe Two Trees.
Okay. No, I'm being told not two trees, but I want to go. Okay, we call forward the spirit and presence and essence of the Last Algonquin, the movie, and also the Arizona Film Productions. That you please come forward immediately and make yourself known. And thank you for being here. Okay, Neil, can you ask them if there's anything that they want to reveal to us or let us know right now? And so what is that?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to specifically, literally channel their energy, but one thing that I'm want to ask, I don't know, Andrew. I want to. There's two questions that I'm moved to ask Phil. He mentioned something about his wife not feeling well or something.
Okay. Yeah.
You mean back when
her shoulder? Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to ask you something else, Phil. Did your daughter in her childhood ever go through any kind of medical challenge or sickness or anything?
The only thing I can remember really is that she had some serious asthma for a while that was not good.
Okay, that's what I'm alluding to. To me, Phil,
yeah.
The spirits are asking you to remain a leader in this and to not give up your quest no matter what. And that what you're going to find is that you've come down here to heal wounded hearts. So I believe that what your essence is right now, and I think that you are tapping into a deep past life, Phil, whereby you've come back to heal wounded hearts. That's what I really believe the deeper journey is. And so as we look at this, the exposure of this possible venture actualizing, I think what you're going to do is help to mend the wounded hearts that American Indians have suffered through the history of the invasion of the white man and how they dispersed the tribes and broke up the energy, and how tragically this man was left without an identity and without a true sense of self. I think you've come back to mend his wounded heart and bring it back to a sense of dignity and purpose. I think what you're experiencing too in your journey, what I'm being told, is that you're taking on the trials and tribulations of the American Indians themselves, who constantly went to the government, who constantly went to the white man, and whose truces and words were broken in the solemnness of their verbal agreements. And so what I think
Neil, hang on a second. I'm going to butt in right now because right now the spirit of the Last Algonquin, the movie, and also is also the same spirit that's overseeing your Arizona film productions. They're the one and the same. And what he told me he's a chief that's been around for years, for many years, and he's helped oversee many the Native Americans for a very long time. And he said that to you, Phil, just you, do not give up your quest with doing this movie, to go forward and help the Native Americans understand their bouts with prejudice, and to help them to pursue their dreams, and to not let them go, to help them work with that so that they can accomplish their dreams and work with them, and no matter what's going on in their lives. That's the message that this chief told me, and it was very clear and very clear as day, and he was very stronghold in saying, do not give up on this movie, and the message is to the Native Americans more than not, to help them overcome prejudice. Period. So that's the message that this movie, as I understand, should go out and try to people. That's what I'm understanding.
Well said. Both with you and Neil.
Oh, go ahead, Neil. I don't know if you had anything else, but I had to say that before I forgot what he said. But go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. No, I'm about done too.
Okay. So I'm not sure how much time we got, but let me see what time is it. Yeah, we still got about 9 minutes left, Neil. Is there anything else we haven't covered, Neil or Phil, that we should talk about? That again, your audience should be kids, more for the kids, and you should bring in understandably music that will help connect with them. And again, your message to the Native Americans to overcome prejudice for themselves, and that's something they chose for themselves, because prejudice is a major lesson plan that I think all Native Americans have to overcome. All that, and I know I've had to deal with it numerous times. And so, how do you overcome prejudice? Is to take a risk, to let yourself be vulnerable and forgive. Just like Two Trees has already told us. Forgiveness it's a huge factor for overcoming prejudice. It's one of the biggest factors, if not the only factor. I'm not sure, but I don't think it is. But that's a huge factor. And understanding, education, is the other factors that need to be included.
Yeah, and I'm trying to help Ted, who wrote the book, see the fulfillment of a movie, because it's always been his dream, and I'd like to see the smile on his face when we're sitting in the opening day theater for the Last Algonquin. And I have to say, I think you guys are right on, and I really appreciate your thoughts and your channeling and your psychism, and I'm going to really put it all to good use.
Neil, he didn't want to come on the show because he didn't know if he can deal with the psychic ability part of it. That's pretty funny. So anyhow, he's like, so now here we have a caller here. Hang on a second. I'm not sure, but I think they just want a second. Aloha, area code 619. You're on the air.
Oh, hi there. Yeah, I just tuned in. Are you taking readings or?
We're not doing readings till next Friday night. We're doing general readings for the public.
Yeah. No, okay, no problem. I'll just listen.
All right, thank you very much, and you can come back next week, and then of course we'll have you talk to you.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Aloha. So anyhow, it's been we got about 6 minutes left to go. I think what we're going to do is we're going to play one more song, sign off with one more song by by Jai Paul, who does he's also works with the East Indian music, and so we're gonna he's one of the more prevalent East Indian kirtan players in the community in that circuit. So we're gonna play. Okay, here we go. No. I think that's very well. Yeah, let's do that. We're gonna play Queen of Hearts, Radha Radha, and we're gonna send out love, blessings, Teenage Angels of Light and Love.
Thank you.
In your movie. Thank you. And
Thank
all
you very
those people that are gonna produce it and be involved with it and whatever else.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was good meeting you and being here.
Aloha. All right, and I want to thank you here. Thank you for being here, Neil. Yeah, we'll touch base later, Neil, because of course we can't do the post show because we can't. We're not on a conference call. So we'll just talk to you later next week and go from there. But to everyone else, I want to thank you for stopping by. Have a God-Goddess weekend. Be the love that you are, always have been, and always will be. Queen of Hearts from Jai Paul's album, Queen of Hearts.
राधे राधे बोलो राधे श्याम 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 राधे राधे बोलो राधे राधे श्याम राधे राधे बोलो राधे श्याम 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 राधे राधे बोलो राधे राधे श्याम राधे राधे बोलो राधे श्याम 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 राधे राधे बोलो राधे राधे श्याम राधे राधे बोलो राधे श्याम 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 राधे राधे बोलो